Hi guys! So a lot of people have been asking about my coronavirus experience. And now that I think I'm out of the woods, I think I'm okay completely, I decided to film a video about it. I know I talked a lot about it, but I just want to make one video that is concise and covers it all, that I can put across all my platforms and feel comfortable with. So first and foremost, today is July 11th, 2020. I tested positive for COVID on June 26th, 2020. The day before was when I took the test, so June 25th, June 26th, whatever you want to call it. In terms of how I guess I should go back between my demographic. Okay, so I turned 24 during the coronavirus, while I had it. So I'm 24 years old, 23, 24, whatever you want to say, doesn't matter, close enough. And I have a variety of diagnoses, including lupus, bipolar, PTSD, OCD, and of course bipolar encompasses hypomania, depression, anxiety, I think ADHD. I have a bunch of diagnoses and I try not to fixate on them because I just am a human being and I need to focus on myself, not on my problems, like the names of them. Anyway, so it's a little bit of background about me. I don't want to go into every single medication I take daily, but I believe the ones that will be important for this is I take hydroxychloroquine once a day at night, 400 milligrams. And then I also take vitamin D3 at night as well, which is 2,500 units IU. So I believe that's all that will really be impacting specifically from what I've heard. There are other things I take, but I don't think that they'd matter. They're mostly other psychiatric medications. What ended up happening was on the 16th of June, I went ahead, and if I'm looking up, there's a calendar up there too. But on the 16th of June, I went ahead and went to work. I am a stripper, exotic dancer, whatever you want to call it. I dance nude, semi-nude for money. And I went into work on that day. Now work started, I had to go in by 6:30 p.m. to do some paperwork, because we had to rehire and everything. And then I started working, I think at 7:30. And then I worked until 2 o'clock in the morning and hung out with friends and stuff like that at work, because we hadn't seen each other in forever, until 3 a.m. That night, obviously with my club, even though it had just opened from coronavirus on, I think, the 12th of June, just for a bit. It's now closed again, which I'm very thankful for other people to not get sick and have to go through what I went through. So I went ahead and I went to work until between those hours, and everything was the same inside the club. The only thing they were doing was they were doing temperature checks at the door, but no one was required to wear masks except for the bartenders, the waitresses, and doormen and stuff like that. So pretty much any of the men working in the club minus the DJ. So dancers do not have to wear masks, customers do not have to wear masks. The only time dancers had to wear masks was when we were giving lap dances, which they were normal lap dances, as far as for Southern California, which are, because they were serving liquor there, just bikini dances. Now, and sitting on laps is okay, blah, blah, blah. So point is they're, it's not what's considered full contact, but they're not air dances is my point. And yes, that is a thing. Air dances are very much a thing. So anyway, I worked, because of the paperwork, I thought I'd have time to go and get dinner in between starting work and, finishing the paperwork. And, I just didn't have the time. So I didn't eat. I worked, what for me is a pretty long shift. Normally I work from about 9, 10 p.m. until like 2 a.m. and then I just go home. So like for me, this was a very long shift. So when the next day I got home and I slept because of my lupus and all my other shit that I just mentioned, I always sleep for about like 24 hours after work. Now this isn't like a hard 24 hours. It's like I like, you know, sleep for like 6 hours, wake up, put around the house, go to the bathroom, and then fall back asleep again within the span of like an hour or two. So I normally do that for about like 24 hours. Now it started getting into 48, which was really weird for me. I was like, well, I just came back. I just had all those factors I mentioned with not being the healthiest in terms of eating. You know, going into like an environment, you know, that I haven't been in months. You know, last time I worked was like beginning of March. I think like March 3rd or something like that. So it's been literally months, you know, and I mean, lupus, as I just said, and my lupus has progressed a bit. And you know, I mean, everything's forever changing and I'm still like figuring it out. So anyway, I was just like, I probably overdid it. You know, maybe I caught like a cold. I'll be fine, you know? And immediately from that night, I was like, I'm not comfortable with everyone not wearing masks. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable. So I told myself, I am not going to go back. This is just this one night because I had customers coming in to see me. And, it's just not for me right now. You know, it's too much of a risk. But, you know, I went ahead and worked. And then, so that puts us through to Thursday. Friday I had to start doing things. Unfortunately, my cat got sick at the same time because like when it rains, it pours. So I had to go out and do things, to check her out and figure out what was going on. She's okay for anyone who's concerned. So that brings us through to the 19th, the 20th, because I was pushing myself on the 19th just to get her taken care of, like running to vets, and like I had a haircut scheduled, and because everything was so close together, like I had to get it done, like because there was like no openings, you know, and if not, I would have had to wait like another month, you know. Just, you know, everyone I was in contact with, I was wearing masks around. I was like, hey, I know I just put myself in an unsafe environment. I was like, if you don't want to hang out with me, that is okay. I'm going to be doing, you know, measures around you in terms of extra social distancing, like extra hand washing, making sure I have a mask on at every point in time possible. So yeah. And I was also up late on the 18th. My friend and I had done our hair. Because I was getting, like, in terms of like bleaching it and dyeing it, because I was going in the next day to get my hair cut. So, all right, that brings us through to the 20th. Because of all those things I just mentioned, I was extremely tired on the 20th. And I slept all day. Didn't really do anything. And then I think that night I had like a little bit of like a fever spike. So at this point, I'd only had like exhaustion to my knowledge. I had a sore throat for the span of like one night. I don't know if it was that night or the 18th. I didn't really document anything. But we'll just say all these symptoms manifested on the 20th for the sake of the story. And then I had a little bit of a cough, that had started on, I think like the 18th. I could check my messages from a friend, but now the cough, one of my friends who is a nurse and works directly with COVID patients, typically the cough has been described as non-productive. Now mine was like moderately productive because I was like coughing up mucus. That's why at first I didn't think anything. Plus I had like a little bit of a sore throat. Like this was normal for me, like in terms of like my, when I catch a cold, you know. Now obviously COVID, I just want to say, is not a cold necessarily. I was just very fortunate that I had mild symptoms. So I want to repeat it. I'm not saying COVID is a cold, but for me, it manifested very lightly. Now, okay, so the sore throat, and then I also had problems with like my nose. It was really weird, like breathing in like hurt a lot. So I guess it was like a sinus headache. It just was all like, it felt like a head cold. I honest to God thought I just had like a head cold. So, all right, kind of weird. You know, I slept a lot. All right, let's go in and get a test. So I scheduled one for the 25th, as I went ahead and mentioned. I think I scheduled it on the 23rd of June was when I actually went ahead and did it, like in the app and whatever. It was a drive up one, went ahead and did that. No problems at all, relatively speaking. Yeah, so then I went ahead and got that all done, whatever. Again, came back positive 30 hours later. And then I heard at this point, like I was pretty much out of the woods. Like I was feeling okay. The only thing I had during that time was the loss of smell and loss of taste. I still unfortunately don't have that back, even though it's been now like 2 weeks since my diagnosis in terms of the actual test. My symptoms pretty much stopped, like the majority of them on the 21st. I had a slight cough after that, but it just was like leftover residual cough. It wasn't like a crazy coughing fits or anything like that. It was just like like here and there. You know what I mean? So now I'm noticing like all my little ticks, my talking ticks. So it's just the loss of taste and smell that is going on at this point. I am okay. In terms of people that are around me, no one else got sick to my knowledge, which is really confusing because on the 20th, to celebrate like my birthday, I went out and grabbed donuts with a friend. I didn't want to do anything else. Again, I told everyone during this period I had put myself in a high risk environment. You know, they knew it was happening. All right. So we went ahead, we smoked a little bit, and then, you know, we had the donuts, whatever. We shared a donut, we shared our smoking stuff. We shared stuff. And then there's another person early on in the week, that like I had like kissed and made out with, and I had shared a beer with that night, like in terms of like actually sharing like the same beer, because I don't drink a lot. And other people I was in close contact with. Of course, I let everyone know, like, hey, just so you know, I'm really sorry, you know, blah, blah, blah. And no one else caught it. Thank heavens for all of them. None of my roommates did. Which one of them actually went and got tested because he works with a high-risk individual. One of my friends, the one I went to go get my hair dyed at, again, we practice like masks and social distancing and whatever within reason for, you know, dyeing hair. But I mean, primarily you're at the back of someone's head. So it's not like I'm like coughing in her face. She has her father is a high risk individual, and he did not catch anything. Again, thank the Lords. He wasn't there at the time, but still like germs can obviously like stick around the house. And I think he came back like a day or two afterwards. So I think that would have been long enough to still have the little germies living in there. And he fortunately did not get sick. She did not get sick. The one friend I mentioned that I made out with, he did not get sick. He even took a test too because of that. And unfortunately, his son came back as positive, but his son had no symptoms. And there's also concerns there being fake positives. When I went ahead and did my research actually last night, fake positives are apparently like 3%. Now that doesn't mean that his kid is a false positive. Like statistically, he's probably not. But in terms of everyone that I could have passed it on to, that is the only person that I know of that came back with a positive. Now that doesn't mean that people weren't asymptomatic, but that's all I can say. In terms of my case, maybe I just call it like a mild strand of it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So, in conclusion, my symptoms, my first symptom was fatigue. My second one was a slight sore throat that I had gone within 12 hours. I had a slight cough, but it was productive at first, and it honestly pretty much stayed that way. It wasn't really like ever like a dry cough. And then the one that was a dead ringer was the loss of taste and loss of smell, which my smell is probably back up to like a 25-50% range. And then my taste is probably at like 10%. That's pretty much it. So I think that covers everything. Oh, loss of appetite. You don't really want to eat when you can't taste your food. You know, it's kind of half of the fun of eating. So that covers everything I went through. I had a slight fever spike at one point for an hour. on the 21st, but that I have lupus, as I said like 10 different times, I think already. That could have been a symptom of lupus. For the past 4 days now, so today's the 11th, starting on the 7th, Tuesday, I have had lupus pains. I'm pretty sure they're lupus related because at this point, per the Long Beach Health Department, when they called me up, they said that I would only be contagious from 10 days after my symptoms. Or when my symptoms ended. So even if we go from the 26th, when I last had been diagnosed, and they mean the major part of the symptoms, the loss of taste and smell does not that's not contagious. So even if we go from the 26th, 10 days from that would be the 6th of July, and my pains were on the 7th. So probably not COVID related. I haven't taken another COVID test. I don't feel the need to at this point in time. It feels like a lupus flare-up to me. Truly, my body is probably still run down from fighting off COVID, and my immune system was like, hey, let's just attack the joints too while we're at it and make you feel like shit. So yes, I've been feeling that, but I think it's my lupus. Regardless, I want to give you guys all the upfront, honest information. If you do end up having to go back to work, whatever work it is, whether it's a high risk, extremely high risk environment like a bar or anything else, please advocate for yourself and for your coworkers and say, we need to have everyone wearing masks, as much as possible. Obviously, you can't, wear a mask when you're eating, but whenever possible, when they're not eating, when they're not drinking, when they're not whatever, wear a mask. Is it sexy? No, but catching COVID isn't sexy at all. So I think that about covers everything. I wish you guys all a very healthy time during this time of fun, and stay inside, wear a mask, wash your hands, blah, blah, blah. Listen to the CDC. If my information's outdated, ignore it. But please listen to the health organizations, not to Google. All right. Thanks again. Goodbye.